into the NFL postseason. Welcome back to Get Sharp, everybody. Joe Fortenbaugh and our friend Todd Fuhrman from Caesars Entertainment, senior race and sports analyst. He's here to break down two of the NFC games for wildcard weekend, and we're starting with probably the big one, the most anticipated one of the weekend, 10-6 Detroit and 13-3 New Orleans.
A lot of people calling the Saints the favorite to win the NFC right now. Hard to argue with what you've seen out of Drew Brees. 7 straight games with 300-plus passing yards. This team has been on an against-the-spread tear. 8-0 against the number at home. 11-3, 14 games they've been installed in as a favorite this year. And putting up points in bunches makes you think that they may be able to rival Baylor for their offensive display.
They're beating their opponents by 23.3 points per game at home this season. Now, you kind of hit on most of the points I was going to ask you about already, so we're almost at a wrap here. But let's talk about the fact that last week, Detroit gets embarrassed in Green Bay. Matt Flynn throws for 480 yards and 6 touchdowns on him. Is there any chance anybody in the public comes up to the window on Saturday and starts betting the Detroit Lions? Because after what we saw, you got to figure there's little faith in this team to slow down New Orleans.
You know what? The betting on this game so far has been pretty decent. You're seeing about 6 out of every 10 tickets coming on the New Orleans Saints, which we expected. These two teams played with 31-17 game on Sunday Night Football back on December 4th. And in that contest, the Lions actually outgained the Saints, but were done in by 11 penalties, totaling a little over 100 yards. So if the Lions can play discipline, avoid the turnover, and somehow get pressure on Drew Brees, this game may be closer than people think. All that being said, I'm not sure how you go against the Saints playing in the Super Bowl.
You got to wonder, that's the thing with Detroit. To win this game, you got to play flawless football, which is something they don't do very well. They can protect the ball. Problems in the back end of the secondary and the penalties, which you alluded to, have killed them this season. They rank 3rd in the league in penalties per game, which is just over 9. Talk about the total for a minute, 59 right now. Highest in playoff history, if I'm not mistaken.
No question. It is the highest total, especially in the wild card weekend and throughout the playoffs. But the other totals that have been in this general vicinity, we've only seen 2 other totals over 56. Both of those games went over the total. Hard to see this game going under because the recipe for beating the Saints is a power ground game, keeping Drew Brees on the sidelines. But that's something the Lions don't excel with, and they're not going to be able to keep the Saints offense off the field. They're going to have to match them score for score.
When you look at the fact that they played not too long ago, early December, you talked about it, Detroit wins New Orleans wins 31-17. In the rematch, do you see a similarly played game in that, 48 points with Detroit falling behind by a couple scores? Do you think this thing could be closer or a little bit higher scoring?
I actually think the game is much higher scoring. I watched that game and you see almost 900 total yards of offense between those two teams. I'm still amazed they only combined to score 48 points the first time they met. And you'd hate to say the total is deflated at 59.5, but it's right where it needs to be. I anticipate we'll see some sharp money come in on the under if we see it hit up to 60. For the sole reason, you're talking about an average of more than 14 points per quarter. So any drought of 5 to 6 minutes puts the game on pace to go under. And who knows, if the game's a blowout, maybe the Saints decide to stop airing it out and pound Darren Sproles, Pierre Thomas, and Chris Ivory.
Saints advance to the divisional round?
Saints get through to the divisional round, and I think they set up a very intriguing matchup. The trip out to San Francisco, the Saints would open as a slight favorite.
Well, don't give too much away because Todd's going to be back on Sunday to break down the New York Giants-Atlanta Falcons game. But for now, enjoy this one tonight, everybody. It should be fun to watch. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.